as I said, you think about healthy plants, it starts with healthy roots and healthy soil. So let's go to the next slide, Katie, and Shannon, talk to us about what you saw when you did your soil tests and your check plots, and how it really impacted your soil in ways we can measure, CEC and organic matter and what have you.
Yeah, the CEC is definitely increased if, as you're looking at the charts. That was actually at the club course prior to the renovation on these charts.
Hey, Shannon, let me hit pause real quick. Can you just explain CEC real quick, just in case there's a few people here might not be totally familiar with the acronym?
Yeah, CEC is your cation exchange capacity, which is the amount of how we want the food to be prepared and available to the plants. In the term that we actually say so it's not locked up. And so we want to increase our CEC or cation exchange in fairways, greens, and allow the plant to have everything that's available to it. Normally when your CECs increase, your organic matter as it breaks down decreases because it's being eaten or used by the biologicals that are in the soil. So even when you're looking at, like on this right here, as the CECs in the fairways increased, you'll see on the organic matter in the fairways that the organic matter decreased, which in our terms for golf is that we want to see the firmness continue to increase on the golf course because the balls go farther, the plant's healthier, our roots are deeper, and we're spending less money. The areas, for example, on the greens where you see the organic matter decreased, especially at the old course or the club course, is because the greens were extremely old, into the 15, 16-year range. So when we started using our Holganix, we saw it decrease every year, was continuing to decrease 5, 10, 15, 20, 25%, which made our greens last longer. They were in rough shape when we got there. We started using it. So we increased the longevity of what we had on the golf course to make it better, make it more playable, knowing that we had to reach our target goal of 15 to 16 years with the economy the way that it was before they were going to start spending money for us to be able to use it.
That's cool. So tell me a little bit about the CEC relationship on the heavy soil and organic matter compared to the sandier soils. How did the relationship change on the different soil types?
Well, it was beneficial on both of them. And on the old course, the sandier soils, the CECs increased a little slower just because there's a lot more pore space. So that's when, like on these numbers that you were looking at, these are in the beginning when we were first taking our measurements. And that's what led us into where we started changing for the soils instead of just planning for the golf course. So the old course is the one that's on a big giant sand ridge, old sand, big pore space. We were having a lot of issues in trying to keep the materials there where they were available to the plant, and the stuff that was getting stuck there was the metals. So this is kind of right here was after our first couple applications where we started figuring out to change and tailor our applications on the heavier soils to the sandier soils. So we started on the sandier soils, we were making more frequent applications at less rates to keep it in the top 4 to 5 inches, because we would often get 2 or 3 inch rains in the summertime is normal for us, and we were losing some from flushing because of the pore space size. It's not because of they weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing. So on the old course, or here it's the club course or the new course now, it's a much heavier soil. It had much more organic matter, where we were trying to decrease the organic matter, and we were making higher applications, not as frequent because we wanted them to actually do more work at the time they were doing, and we managed them by watching our soil samples and what was available to the plant on a monthly basis. It's kind of confusing to do golf courses. But they were directly related, and how we use it is 2 completely different types of applications on how we manage them, just because the soils and the CECs and everything was completely different due to the CECs and the organic matter that was there.
Yeah, well, I love this example because it shows, first of all, it's something we can measure. We can always say, oh, the turf is better, it's got, it looks better, it feels better, I've got less inputs. But when we can actually measure it, with real numerical measurements the way we have here, it really shows that we're doing something. But what's really cool as well is that you show it to us on the 2 courses. where one you have, heavier soils with a lot of organic matter, the other you've got the sandier soils that are flushing, and we show how we're improving CEC and the soil's functionality on both soils, on the two opposite extremes. And so I really appreciate you sharing the data with us. And then here it says CEC on greens without Holganix Golf, 5% decrease. Can you explain that a little bit?
That was at the old course. We still have those greens, believe it or not. Now they get Holganix, but at the time we were getting ready to rebuild the greens when we did the renovation. So we were not treating those because we were going to do them last. So when we went in and actually measured it on our monthly basis, compared to where it was prior to, and where it went, and all the soils that were directly around it that we tested to see how effective the Holganix was, the greens actually declined in their CECs, which meant they were holding more moisture. They were much softer. The playability was decreasing. And then we decided not to redo those greens, and we started our Holganix applications. That Barrett too. These are when we were still spraying it before we could even fertigate it on these numbers, by the way.
Right.
So we went in and actually started applying Holganix on our greens because we saw on the club course what the numbers that we had increased, and to decrease the thatch on those greens. And now, Blaine Cooper, who is our tour agronomist, last year when we had the tournament, he actually used the pressure test, and it was the first time that he had ever got a pressure of over 10 pounds on greens over 12 years old ever. And the normal for our greens over the last 5 years, they had increased pressure by about 1.5 to 2 foot per year, which was showing you how much we were getting rid of the thatch and managing our CECs. So that was just another tool in showing you what the Holganix is doing over the applications over the years. It's continuing to improve. My agronomics haven't changed. We verticut, we aerify, we top dress the same. I've been doing this for 30 years, so my program hasn't changed. The only thing that changes is the continuous applications that we have made. And the only thing that we apply that would actually do that is the Holganix. So it's continued to improve the greens that are now 17 years old over the last 5 years.
Wow. And talk about money savings. I mean, you could have done those greens and gotten there, through brute force, or you can get there by adding the right biology and over time,
Right. I mean, currently, if we were to rebuild the greens today's day, that's about $800,000 for 3.25 acres of greens.
Yeah. Wow. And just so everybody understands what we're talking about here, when we reduce the thatch, the reason the Bio 800 Golf is able to reduce thatch is because we've got over 800 species of bacteria and fungi, many of which are thatch-eating bacillus. And so they're going to go in and they're going to feed on that thatch. They're going to break it down, turn it into food sources for the plant, and make that thatch much less of a problem. Obviously, you're still doing the mechanical process of keeping thatch in check at the same time, but it's that combination that allowed us to get the pressure tests up because the thatch went down. Less thatch is less spongy, makes it much more playable.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, thanks, Shannon. Yeah.